How's everybody doing?
Good.
What?
Good, he wasn't
Blessed.
Well, my knee hurts.
Well, I don't want to. All right, so welcome to the Missouri Select Guard monthly meeting. Same as last time. Last time we covered a lot of fire making stuff and some to no avail, but he's working on it.
Still?
We covered a little bit. We covered a little bit of like improvised fire making last time, and some water filtration purification last time. Now we're gonna touch a little bit more on water purification and filtration. If you're out in the middle of nowhere, you ain't got no water, these tips here are gonna help you. Josh Dawson is one of our members. He's worked up some things on the effects of Giardia, cryptosporidium, all kinds of different hepatitis A, things that could happen if you get contaminated water and you don't filtrate it, you don't purify it right. Okay. So the number one thing you can do when purifying water is what? What's the number one thing?
Boil.
Boil it. Fire. Fire is your friend. Why you gotta know how to make a fire. All right. What is the boiling point of water?
Is it at 200, what is it, 212?
214?
212 degrees
212.
Fahrenheit?
212 degrees. All right, how long do you need to boil water?
1 minute, 2 minutes.
I've heard anywhere up to 5 minutes.
3 to 4.
I don't know.
1 minute.
1 minute.
1 minute is the minimum. Anything beyond 1 minute, you're boiling away drinking water. Okay? 1 minute will kill 98% of the bacteria that's in water. Okay? That's why, and you notice it say I said 98%, I didn't say 100%. Everybody goes, well, what about those other 2%? What do you do about that other 2%? Chemical treatment. If you got it, bleach, purification tablets, things like that. When you chemically treat water, how long do you leave it sit?
30 minutes?
Before you can drink it.
30?
Well, 45? Bam. 45 minutes to an hour before you can drink the water. That kills, between the boiling, the filtration, chemical treatment, 100%. Will wipe out 100% of the bacteria and diseases in water. So, it varies. The difference in boiling temperatures varies, actually, by altitude. If you're in higher elevation, the lower the temperature to boil, and vice versa. If you're in a lower setting, below sea level, it will take a lot more. So, this is due to atmospheric pressure. Say you're in Death Valley, the temperature to boil water will be more like 215, 220 degrees. Top of Mount Everest, looking around 160, 165 degrees to boil water. All right, so kind of know your area, what you're in. If you're in Midwest, you're in Missouri, 212 degrees minimum, okay? Atmospheric pressure has a lot to do with boiling water and getting bacteria out and stuff like that. Say you're in Denver, the atmospheric pressure would be something like 12 pounds per square inch, as opposed to Los Angeles it being 14 to 15 pounds per square inch on pressure. That has a lot to do with if you're climbing and stuff too, how you get out of breath, the air's thinner, less pressure, things like that. So that's another thing to think about. Okay, a few good ways to deal with water out in a survival situation is, like I said, the best way to do it is boil your water. That's your number one thing right there. You got to have fire, you got to be able to boil it. Filtration can be used as a pathogen reduction method against most microorganisms depending on the pore size of the filter that you're using. Say you're using one of those portable water filtration things. A lot of things to think about is your microns, okay? What kind of microns that those filters use. So They pore size, the amount of contaminant, and the particle size of the contaminant. All the cloudy stuff that you get in the water and stuff. What's the best place to get your water? Running stream or a lake?
Running stream.
Wrong. The lake. You don't know what's upstream when you're pulling your water out. There could be a dead animal, there could be a cattle farm 10 miles up the creek, and you got all kinds of cow shit and cow piss going down the water. A lake, I would rather drink out of a little bitty old cesspool tucked back in there that water's been cooling up, that's all dark and nasty looking, than a clear stream. Because you got more bacteria in that clear stream because the water's constantly bringing you new things.
And the things that hurt you, you can't see and smell or taste anyway.
Absolutely, absolutely. Let's see. Store-bought filter, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Boiling can be used as a pathogen reduction method that, if done right, should kill all the pathogens. Water should be brought to a rolling boil for 1 to 2 minutes to effectively kill. We already went up that. Disinfection can be used as a pathogen reduction method against microorganisms. However, contact time, disinfectant concentration, water temperature, water turbidity. You know what turbidity is? Cloudiness in the water. How much dirt, how much mud, how much muck is in there. Water pH levels, many other factors can impact the effectiveness of chemical disinfection. All right. The length of time, the concentration of the disinfectant varies by manufacturer, and effectiveness of pathogen reduction depends on the product you're using. I use a bleach or the little purification tablets. Either one of those are effective. You got to check the manufacturer to what degree that chemical is at, what percentage of what's in that pill that you're dropping in your water. 1 to 2 tablets per quart, so on and so forth. You can use iodine. You got to know how much to put in there. There's different strengths of iodine. All those are different factors that too much of a good thing is a bad thing. Okay? So, right. Other treatment methods, like ultraviolet light. Somebody asked me about that earlier. Can we do ultraviolet? Ultraviolet can be used as a pathogen reduction method. This method requires effective pre-filtering. You got to filter your water first. It's really good. Due to the dependence on low water turbidity. Okay. The correct power delivery and the correct contact times to achieve maximum pathogen reduction. I know some of this sounds scientific and everything, and a lot of people going, I don't understand. Okay. It has all to do with how cloudy your water is, how much stuff is in there, what kind of chemicals and things that you're using in them. That's to achieve your maximum effectiveness. Everybody's going to have different things in their bag. All right. Everybody's going to. This is a process of learning, going over things over and over, repeating things. So you get out there, try different things. I encourage you to go get dirty water out of a pond or something. Practice filtering it. Practice doing your chemical treatments, doing your boiling. Get your boiling point up, and then let it sit and cool. Taste it. See what it tastes like. You know. One of the things that I'll talk about in here is salt. Okay. If you're out in a, I don't need this thing. That's all in here. If you're out in a survival situation, your sodium intake is going to be a lot lower than if you're sitting in a house eating store-bought stuff. So you're not getting the correct sodium in your body. Sodium is very important when you're out in the middle of nowhere. You run out of salt, you're screwed. We require, I think it's like 15% sodium intake. 13 to 15%, I think it is. So we require a little bit of salt. So take you a little pinch of salt. Bring your water out, you filter it, then you boil it. Then you can set it off into a container. Put the correct amount of chemicals in your water that you're going to use. Set it off to the side and sit because a plastic container
It has BPA's in it, which just petroleum
Right.
byproducts, which can,
Right.
they're not good for you to take in.
Right.
They've been linked to hypertension, like high blood pressure
wow.
and such.
Yeah.
Right on.
A homemade, I don't know if you guys know about the MOIX or MIOX. It's a mixed oxidant solution. Okay, this is what the water treatment plants use to treat your water so that you can drink it. All right, you can do that on your own using bleach and sea salt. When you're using salt, when you're adding salt to the water, don't use regular table salt. It's iodinized salt. It comes from a mine. It lacks the sufficient minerals and stuff in it that you need in a survival situation. The best thing to use is sea salt. Okay, that stuff's naturally occurring, good stuff for you. So, the salt helps in the absorption and the chemical reaction of the H2O in your bloodstream. So that sea salt actually buffers your bloodstream, helps it out, and helps it absorb and runs through your body better. So,
Is that what they mean by rub some dirt in and take a salt tap?
right.
All right. Yeah.
Suck it, embrace the suck and ruck up, man. Yeah. Let's see. About 3.5. I was wrong on that. 3.5 grams of sodium a day for optimal cellular function. All right. So anything more than that is overabundance of it, and it's not good for you. That's why a lot of people, when they eat a lot of salty stuff, blood pressure goes up, fatigue sets in. Because a lot of people use way too much salt, and they use iodinized salt. Don't do that. If you're lucky enough in survival situations to be eating rations or MREs, be cautious of your sodium intake because too much has the opposite effect and will dehydrate you. You're living off the land and you need your sodium intake is going to be much lower, so adding a pinch of sea salt to your water will help a lot. Try avoiding using iodized salt. I already covered that. When you're using chlorine, you're going to want to use a 5 to 6% brand because it takes about 6% bleach, the chlorine, to kill most microorganisms found in backwood water sources. Remember, city water is already chlorinated, so if you're storing water in a survival situation, you do not want to add more chlorine to your water. It's already chlorinated. So that stuff there, basically you bottle it in a glass container, not plastic. Store it off to the side in case your power goes out and your water goes down. You have backup for it. If you're out here in the wilderness, plastic is about the only choice you got, really, as far as being able to carry it and go through the woods with it. You know, you're not going to want to carry a big ass glass jug, so plastic collapses down and everything goes in your bag. So you're going to be stuck with that until you can find a better way to set up camp and produce your water and stuff. So when you're using chlorine bleach, about 2 drops will treat a quart of water, filtered water. 8 drops a gallon, a half teaspoon for 5 gallons, so on and so forth. You figure just 2 drops a quart, 4 quarts a gallon. Just kind of do the math. Always boil your water. That's about all I got. Josh is going to show us a little bit on the microorganisms and the reasons we need to filter water and stuff. So
Thank you, Jeff. Why should you purify water? Because like Jeff said, looks can be deceiving. Just because the water's clear doesn't always mean that it's safe to drink and that it doesn't harbor bacteria, microorganisms, and industrial chemicals or heavy metals. Some commonly found heavy metals in water are mercury. Less than a gram of it is enough to kill you, which is about as much as a paperclip weighs, so it doesn't take much. Cadmium is an extremely toxic metal found in industrial workplaces. Most of the stuff you'd probably have to worry about more if you were closer to a large industrial city. Like take a look at what happened in Flint, Michigan, for instance. You don't want to drink water out of the Flint River. Arsenic, it's a toxic carcinogen. It's actually found in cigarettes. Cigarettes that people toss into like creeks and stuff. Those chemicals in there actually leach into the water. Chromium, it's another heavy metal that causes vertigo, nausea, internal hemorrhaging, circulatory collapse, which is your veins like collapsing, and multi-system organ failure.
Small doses over time will cause cancer.
Lung cancer.
Yeah.
I think some welders actually get chromium poisoning, right?
Yeah, I've heard of that.
Thallium, it was once used in rat poisons, but now currently it is found in some electronic devices and in low melting point glass. And then lead, which is what the problem they had with in Flint, Michigan. And it causes abdominal pain, headache, anemia, and in some cases seizure, coma, and death. And it's especially bad for children because it has irreversible effects on their brain and on the development of it. Okay, so that's a good reason why you want to purify the water. I mean, you want to filter the water. Make sure, like Jeff said, that you have a good filter that will go down to so many microns, you know. Make sure that it'll get those heavy metals and contaminants out. And then what can happen if you don't purify your water? Well, one thing is a Giardia infection. It's a parasitic organism. The duration of it is 2 to 6 weeks long. Some people, though, with a weak immune system, it might take longer to clear it. And you can also have it recur. So some people will actually relapse if it's not all out of their system. It causes watery, greasy, loose stools, fatigue, abdominal cramps, nausea, and weight loss. All of this in a setting right now for you where we have hospitals that are still operational and a house, it's a minor inconvenience. But if you're out in the woods, this type of stuff,
build a shelter.
this type of stuff can be deadly. Cholera is an acute diarrheal disease that can kill within just hours of infection. I mean, it doesn't take very long at all to kill. And like I said, if you have a hospital setting where they can treat you, that's all well and fine. If you don't, you're probably in a lot of trouble. And then amoebic dysentery, they're caused by amoeba, which is a single cell parasite, and causes symptoms of bloody diarrhea. And it usually resolves within days or weeks, but the dehydration it causes can be life-threatening if you don't have a way to treat it. And then Jeff said earlier, like there's some things that I missed, like hepatitis is found. It's something that you don't want because that causes liver failure over time. And other common things found in groundwater runoff is selenium, which your body actually needs selenium to survive. Thanks, Scotty. Your body actually uses selenium. It's most commonly found in stuff like Brazil nuts, like those large Brazil nuts. But you don't want to eat too much of it. Anything over, I think it was 400 micrograms is actually poisoning your body. Nitrite, which is found in fertilizers, runs off into water. Nickel damages your heart and liver. Manganese, it's not really toxic to people, but it's devastating to plants. Fluoride causes a crippling bone disorder if you have way too much of it. Cyanide, that damages the spleen, brain, and liver. It's like one of the most toxic things on earth. Copper, beryllium, and barium. Barium occurs naturally in some limestones and causes a variety of cardiac, gastrointestinal, and neuromuscular effects. So like Jeff said, if you're near a water source and you see a lot of buildup and stuff around, you probably want to stay away from it. And that's all I've got for now.
I appreciate that.
Thanks for having me.
That really encourages me to properly boil, treat, and filtrate my water.
There's a lot of risk involved. I mean, can you drop down and just suck a little bit of water out of the creek? Sure.
If you're already yeah, and you know if you don't drink, you're going to die it is worth the
It's
chance
worth the
that
risk.
you're taking.
If you do that, you want to sit right off the surface.
All right, so anybody else have any viewpoints, anything? Did anybody bring any bottles or anything?
Got a plastic bottle.
Okay, I've got a couple of soda bottles. Zach ran down to the creek a while ago and grabbed some creek water. So we're gonna properly filtrate and treat this jug of water. All right, so this is where we all get hands-on. Okay, so we're gonna do a little bit of practice. We're gonna show and tell and all that. Filter the water. You use them to plug up a wound. They soak up blood and everything. Women know that. So.
Work real good for finding top dead center on your number one piston too.
Right?
They'll pop that
Yeah,
sucker
they do
right out
actually.
Right.
I mean, if you have a nosebleed, that's great.
So basically, just take the thing out. You'll want to get it to kind of fan out a little bit. You want it to fill up this little spot. If you have to, get it a little wet. It'll blow up like crazy then. Tell you there.
Here, watch this with me.
All right. All right. Once you kind of get that in there where it's gonna block everything out, get it fanned up. There we go. All right. Take you a little bit of charcoal. Crush that charcoal up in there. Get it right on top of that. Not in your clean water bowl. Get it kind of crushed up in there, enough to cover that bottom. Pick you up some sand. If you found water, you found sand. That sand that breaks that rock, or that water breaks it all down. And you kind of pour that on top of it. So what you're doing is you're creating a filter for your water to filtrate all that crap out of there.
What happened to the rocks?
You can use them or not. If you got a lot of stuff in your water, when you pull it out of the creek, say you're using a pan and you just dip it out of there, and you got leaves and things like that, you can add bigger rocks to the top, which will catch some of that bigger stuff. The sand will catch all the littler stuff, and then the charcoal activates, cleans all the toxins, a bunch of the toxins and stuff out of there. So pour your water in there slowly. It's going to take a little bit. And that's how you do it.
How much of the water do you lose through like evaporation with that? Probably not a whole lot.
Depends, I mean, through this, not much at all. You're going to lose a little bit, but best thing to do is yeah, you can make it, you can fill this thing up almost all the way to the top and just pour a little bit of water at a time, let it soak in there. The more stuff you put in there, the better the filters. So once you get a good pan of water, and like I said, it's going to take a little bit. Best thing to do is take some tree limbs and make you a little tripod, set your filter up on there, let it run while you're doing other things like starting a fire and stuff. Once you get a pan of water, you sit it on there, you let it boil. Like I said, roll and boil 1 minute, that's your minimum. 1 to 2 minutes, that's your target zone. So
How often do you want to change your sand and your charcoal out?
it depends on how much stuff is in the water, really. I mean, if you got a lot of stuff in the water, you probably don't want to do it every time. You
You
know?
can tell by the clarity of it too.
Yeah, I mean, if you try to do it and your water's coming out cloudy, then you're probably going to need to change it out and stuff. So, but you don't want to waste a lot of water on it too. So, precious commodity. All right, so It's like watching paint dry.
Being thirsty.
Oh yeah, yeah. But it's extremely important because when you're out and you get fatigued, you get dehydrated, you get fatigued. And I don't know if you've ever tried to start a fire and you felt good, it's hard.
Right.
But
Put it in
when,
perspective for me whenever you.
when you're cold and you're shaky and you're dehydrated, imagine how hard it is going to be to start a fire with bow drill that way. So you're going to want to, you're going to definitely want to keep your water intake going. On days that you sweat, your water, your salt, all that stuff's you're going to deplete pretty quick. So you need that. And I think the one thing we did forget was the salt.
Watched Big Dodge, boy cooked him up some stone soup.
Who did? No, I didn't see that.
Yeah, that's a cool show. I like that.
Yeah, they get the minerals and stuff out of his
Yeah.
Right, right.
It took him a while to find the right rock, but he was like, this is the wall.
It's funny though, because imagine all the minerals and stuff, the vitamins and stuff that we got in our bodies. We're comprised of everything that's on this planet.
Exactly.
And what's the scripture say? From dust we come, from dust we will return. Yeah. All right, so now see, once you're done, you still got that packed filter there. You put it up somewhere, let it dry out. You can use that again. If you got a lot of crap, a lot of debris in there and stuff, you're gonna want to change it out. But if you like this here, it was good clean water. Fairly. I mean, it's a little cloudy, but not too bad. Turbidity's low on it. Not a lot of movement in the water right now. It's just kind of creeping. The faster the water moves, the more turbidity you're gonna have. More cloudiness you're gonna have. So just kind of keep that into consideration when you're looking for water. This may not be your only water source. So don't, unless you're like really dehydrated, don't go for your first, look for your best. All right?
So like still.
Someone made him a torch.
Yep. Right on. All right, so what we're going to do is take that, minus the little floaties that just blew in there. All right, we'll take that little spot of water there.
You want to go check this goes? Yeah, please check that.
Not going to want to get crazy. Kind of put it off to the side there, otherwise it's going to really go at it. Oh, I just kind of bumped it when I did. So now we're just going to kind of wait. Let that thing get going here. There we go. It shouldn't take long in that. That's thin the metal. So different things you can do. We talked about that earlier or last time. Is if you don't have a container, one of the things you can do is find you a rock that's got a divot in it. And take some of that water. If you got to, take your shirt off, soak it in water, take it up over that rock and wring it out. That's the only way you got to carry water. You got to do what you got to do. So take your shirt, bring that water in there, fill that little hole up, that little divot in the rock, fill that up. Build you a little campfire, set you some little stones in there. Be careful of the stones. You don't want them stones already soaking wet when you first start because you're going to blow them rocks up. So set them off to the side around it. We'll let that heat kind of soak in there nice and easy. And once them rocks get nice and hot, you take you a couple sticks and you drop it in that water and keep doing that, cycling them rocks around. So you get that water to where it's kind of bubbling and boiling. Keep doing it, keep doing it. And then you just let it cool off a little bit, suck you some water out of there.
So stone boiling. And that can also add minerals.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, that's, when you're out in a survival situation, you got to do what you got to do to get water. Water, fire, shelter, three most important things you're gonna face when you're out in a survival situation. First thing you do, depending on the elements actually, is you want to procure water. You want to know where your water source is at. You get a water source, you got enough energy, go ahead and start you a fire. Collect you some water, while your fire's getting going, and you do your filtration, your purification. If you can't filter your water, still boil it. Doesn't matter. Absolutely. Always boil your water. Never look at water and go, wow, it's pretty clear. I'm safe. Chances are you're not.
It'll be hard too if you're real thirsty, lips are dry, you want to take a drink so bad.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be. Yeah, you're definitely going to be thirsty. You're not going to want to wait. One of the other things I want to touch on is shelter. If it's cold, windy, a lot of factors are going to wear you slick. You've got convection, different kinds of things that will suck your water. Sitting on a rock will suck the heat right out of your body and make you even colder. So
That's why you want them off the ground.
you want up off the ground. If you're building a shelter, it doesn't matter. 2 to 3 inches off the ground. That's better than having your body flat on the ground. You know, if you have to, if you can't build something, you need something quick, the best thing to do is just find you a trench, throw a bunch of leaves in there, some sticks in there, throw some more leaves over top of it, and it builds you something to go over top of it. You're going to want your space to be confined and tight,
Trap heat.
to hold your body heat in and keep you off the ground, keep that from sucking the heat out of your body. So, and we're going to cover more of that today. If everybody's got time.
I read a deal that was about wilderness survival, and it said a lot of the stories about these people that survived, they weren't survival experts, they were just normal people. Then you hear stories about there's some people that know what they're doing and they still end up perishing.
Right.
And the one thing that separated the people that died and the people that didn't die was their mentality. Like
Exactly.
that'll kill you quick as anything too if you're out there and you become demoralized and
Right.
you just say, well, I'm just going to lay down and give up. You
Right.
can't be like that.
The mind will surpass when the body fails.
We're starting to get a nice pull there. All right.
And now we're watching the state.
A lot of survivors, countless sins. Countless sins.
Knowing when to slow down and take a step back.
Yes.
All right, so we got a nice little boil here going.
I'm trying first. I'm gonna try to make me a house.
Come get me on the house. There's time to make it up.
There's a difference between surviving and thriving. You know, the more you know, the better you're going to be. You get out of a situation where most people will collapse. Most people will give up, lay down and die. All right, you don't want to be that person. You want to thrive, not just survive. You want to last. If you have to last long enough till you get picked up. What happens if you don't get picked up? Anybody ever see that movie Alive, where the plane crashed in the middle of the damn mountains or whatever? All right, those guys, they survived. They did what they had to do.
Had to resort to cannibalism.
Yeah, I don't hold it against them, man. They did what they had to do. With given that
Burnt
situation.
flesh. I'm a meaty.
Yeah.
You die, your ass is gonna
Right?
Don't die. I'm joking.
don't let something down. Oh,
So,
he froze to death. He died of natural causes.
I don't want to be a gypsy.
Part of you being the
Seems like we're a ribeye guy.
I had to be on you what you was eating ahead of time, you know, so I knew how you going to taste. Eat a bunch of acorns.
I interviewed a tribe of cannibals. The cannibals said that people taste like pork.
Normally where I'm at on Sunday, playing chicks on the
Apparently there's this one where the
Hey, man, as long as you have to like bacon.
I like bacon.
Anybody taste like young veal?
See, if burnt
Couldn't find the right people to smell
meat
it.
smells like burnt flesh, I won't be able to mess with that. I smell hay.
Depends on how hungry you really are.
Yeah, right? Yeah. It's like, if it's like life or death, maybe, but I don't think I could do it. I was saying, I don't want to stuff with myself before I eat
Trust and believe.
Get on YouTube.
Right.
Yeah, because you would carry a lot more diseases, right?
Got a nice little boiled thing of water here.
Something to set that on, guys.
Yeah, I got a pan over here. Got a rock here too. All right, so the best way, most people aren't going to be carrying around a jug of bleach with them. So some of the things you can do is chemical, the little tablets you can buy in a store. You can buy those, you drop a couple of drops of that in there. This here isn't much, so it's not going to take much of chemical to treat that. You figure it's 2 drops a quart, so you don't want to overdo it. Too much of a good thing is a bad thing. So you want to be very careful. One of the things that you can do, you ain't got nothing to suck it out with, and you got a jug.
Awesome. Smart idea.
There you go. That right there, for that little bit of water,
Perfect.
just enough.
So how much do you add? About a drop? Yeah, one drop.
Small drop. Yeah, about a small drop. All right, what we're gonna do is let that kind of sit there.
And a quart is basically a mason jar. Think of it that way. The reason why they call it a quart is because it's a quarter gallon. 4 quarters a gallon.
We'll let that sit there and cool off, and everybody's gonna get a sip of it. Yeah, and you can buy these at Walmart, little tablets that you can find to purify your water. I think it's 2 tablets per quart, isn't it? I think so. Break out my eyeballs here.
Over here, and I do that.
All right, these got iodine in them. Let's see what all it's got in
One's to take out the taste. You put one in there for 30 minutes, and then per quart,
there. Right.
and then the
Or
other
is one like a
bottle,
mineral drop out? I mean, does it add flavor or take
it's
it
a
out?
tablet.
Yeah, 2 tablets of common drinking water purification tablets makes 1 quart of most water bacteriologically suitable to drink. Uniform dosage per tablet is assured. Always, if you got some of this stuff here, make sure you know what's in there. Make sure you know. Always read the manufacturer's suggested usage of it, because they're the ones that put that stuff out. So you're gonna want to go by what the manufacturer says. So yeah, good thing to keep it handy. We got some of those in our bag. So bleach, if you want to carry around a little bleach or whatever I was telling them earlier, you take straws and cut them down into about 1-inch strips. Put about 3 drops of bleach in each one, and then hot glue the tops of them. Boom, you got a capsule. Then you take that capsule, 1 capsule. You're not going to get all 3 drops of it out of that tablet or out of that capsule, because it's going to clean the sides and stuff. But then you got enough to treat the quart of water. So always carry something around with you to purify water. Put it in your bug out bag. Be ready. Survival through preparedness. You know, a lot of people get out there. Most people have a defense mechanism, and they can survive if they're put into that situation. Do you want to survive or do you want to thrive? Do you want to be comfortable while you're waiting, or do you want to be huddled up, scared, cold, wet, hungry, thirsty? Or would you rather be kicking back your feet on a block when the team shows up?
Have lunch for them.
Right.
That's it. I want to have dinner, fire, and shelter tonight.
Absolutely.
It's gonna happen.
All right, so that's our water, shelter, then provide shelter. So most survival manuals will explain the importance of shelter. Protecting yourself from exposure is very important when you're out in a survival situation. It's crucial that we understand how important your mental state. Okay, we talked about mental aspect of survival. It takes a toll on you, man. So, it's often found that the mental attitude of a person during survival conflict can make all the difference. Endure the situation or perish can set into your mind. Shelter not only protects you from the adverse weather, but also gives you a mental boost. Much like fire, shelter can give us hope and a sense of accomplishment. Your shelter becomes your sanctuary. It's your safe zone. You know, when you're out in the middle of nowhere, you have no idea how long it's going to be before somebody comes to save you. That is yours then.
The ground's a long way away.
It is, man. It just kind of sits something on top up there.
Another good use for a rocket.
Right, right. All right, furthermore, a properly built shelter will help us stay out of the elements and allow us to rest. In the wilderness, a shelter will increase your chances of survival. Simple. If your hobbies take you outdoors, then this is an indispensable skill. You'll learn this. I mean, we've all been camping. We've all put tents up. We've all thrown a tarp up and made us a little makeshift tent because we either forgot the tent or got drunk and burned it down. It only happened once. All right. People underestimate how quickly a 70-degree day can turn into a dangerous situation. Keep in mind that 40 degrees with wind and rain could cause hypothermia. Actually, 50, 52 degrees, 55 degrees. You got rain and wind, your body's losing heat. You're sitting on a rock, leaning up against a tree. It's going to happen a lot quicker. So, a short hike through the woods can turn into a life-threatening situation in a wrong turn of events. Under certain temperatures, having proper shelter can make the difference between life and death. Anytime we face a potential survival situation, the decision process is initialized. So you start thinking, shit, I got to do something. We must evaluate how soon you want to build your shelter. If we're dealing with precipitation and wind, minutes count. If you got wind and rain, you're going to want to get sheltered quick. You know, increased body heat loss can lead to impaired motor skills. Cold, wet, tired. You ain't going to be able to grip nothing. It's going to be hard to shake it. So building a shelter, starting a fire, it's going to be almost impossible. So,
At that point, it's almost not even how mentally strong you are at that point because your body won't work.
right. When our clothing becomes moistened, it loses the insulation properties. So imagine trying to start a fire while you're shaking, fumbling around. Immediate shelter can be found under a spruce tree. Go out and get underneath the spruce tree. It'll help block you for a little bit. You can break some of the branches off, kind of lean back against yourself, help to protect you from the wind. Anything like that, you know. So, some form of natural cover rocks, you know, cave, little cutouts in the caves or whatever. That will help you. That'll block the wind and help you start a fire if you got wind blockage there. Must consider an often used acronym in survival is STOP. Everybody knows what that is. Does everybody know what that is? Stop. It means stop and think about your situation, observe the area, and plan your actions. STOP. Stop and think, observe, and plan. All right?
Yeah, you're not going to want to build your shelter 5 miles away from water.
You don't want to be right up on water though. All right? Because you've got things you got to consider with game trails, animals, predators. We'll use that water source. Mosquitoes, you know, the closer you are to water. I'd rather put my tent up there on the hill as opposed to right down here.
Right.
You know, so.
I said 5 miles, not.
Yeah, you don't want a 5 mile hike when you can mile up there.
Yeah,
You know?
exactly.
But it depends on the terrain and what's there and stuff too. So, we should often ask ourselves such things as: are we in immediate danger? Is there enough building and fire materials in the area Are we somewhere where we can hopefully be seen if you're stranded, or not seen in some cases? All right. The last thing we want to do is allow fear to cause us to act irrationally. If you think we are lost, stop. Okay? Walking further will only increase the distance from the last known position, but it can reduce the chances of being found by rescue. Just as a soldier is trained to react under fire, we must prepare for possible survival circumstances. Read up on shelter building. There's plenty of stuff online about how to throw up a lean-to, how to throw up an egg frame, how to throw up a wiki up or whatever, We've got a few things like that. I just posted some stuff online about building different kinds of shelters and stuff. Understand the basic principles in insulation. Get familiar with different shelter designs for different conditions, okay? Different conditions call. So assess your situation and ask yourself, how much time do I have before the sun goes down? Another thing you got to think about. Is it likely to rain or snow, etc.? In a life-death situation, every chance we make, every choice we make can be crucial. We've got experience through we gain experience through repetition. Just like shelter, fire is crucial. So we've covered that before in some of the classes that we've done. So naturally, you want to carry a reliable fire starting kit in your bag. Make sure it's readily accessible. But most of all, make sure you practice using that. You don't want to get out there. Start fires in different kinds of weather conditions. Will your life depend on a fire when it's summer and the temperature's in the 80s? Other than water purification, no. You're not going to need a fire. Maybe driving off, critters or whatever. If you got predators in the area, prone to cougars and stuff like that, we get them here. So bobcats and nasty little suckers. Mountain lions, yeah. So work on your different techniques. Best thing to do is work in different conditions, man. You get out somewhere and say you can't really work on building a fire in 80-degree weather and practice for winter, can you? So one of the things you can do, and they did this test in the military, get a bucket of ice water. Stick your hands in it. Then try to do things that'll train you for using your hands in cold, wet environments, even in the dry, humid, hot areas. All right, so you want to work with different techniques, different styles, different temperatures. So you're prepared for everything. That's part of being prepared. Is how far are you willing to go to gain the knowledge to survive? You want to be found cuddled up somewhere on the verge of death, or you want to be sitting back waiting with a meal cooking on the stove? We want to be all of you that want back here cooking up some rabbit stew, making some fucking meat, having a good time. Having a good old time. Hey, what took you boys so long? Sit down and have some dinner. So the decision made during survival, desert survival, can vary from one made in Arctic weather. Make no mistake about it, the nights can be extremely cold in the desert. Anybody ever been in the desert?
I lived in Arizona for a while.
All right, so what's New Mexico called? Big sky country. All right, it's called big sky country because they don't get a lot of clouds out there. And it's something to do with the atmospheric stream, So they call it big sky country. You get out there in the middle of the desert, 100 degrees, 105 degrees during the daytime, 40 degrees at night. It's a 60-degree difference, 65-degree difference. That takes a toll on your body, So if you're in a situation like that, or you get a storm blow in, and you're in a valley, the temperature's going to be different than if you're up here in the field. Right, flash flooding and stuff like that. So the types of fuels out there in the desert, tender, drier. It's not as plentiful. Humidity plays a factor. Humidity gets soaked into the wood and stuff. Hard to start a fire. KD's tried and tried and tried.
Part of the problem is different types of wood, hardwood, softwood. So, and how much moisture is in them sticks. All right, if you take a stick, and you wrap it up and you hold it in your hand, put a cloth over it, you do that for about a minute, 2 minutes, take that off and touch your lips. Your lips are real sensitive. You can feel moisture when you do that. So check that stick. See if there's a lot of moisture in that stick. If there's a lot of moisture in it, it's probably not going to work.
It's cooler feeling when it has moisture.
Yep. You'll feel not only will it be cool, but you can feel the dampness.
Right.
All right, so proper shelter can keep you dry and warm enough to survive nights without fire. If you're out somewhere and you can't get a fire started, consolidate. The smaller the shelter you build, the best chance of survival you have. You can survive a 30-degree, 40-degree night, wind blowing, it's cold as hell. You can survive one of them laying in a little hole with leaves piled up over top of you. Better so you can sitting out here with one of those thermal blankets. So you want to keep your shelter small if you cannot start a fire. So heat transfer is one of the big problems. Heat transfer is a transition of thermal energy from a hotter mass to a cooler mass. When an object is at a different temperature than its surroundings or another object, transfer of thermal energy, also known as heat flow or heat exchange, occurs in such a way that the body and the surrounding react thermal equilibrium. This means that they are trying to get to the same temperature. So this is colder than you are, it's going to suck your body heat out and try to equalize that temperature right there. So that's the natural thing that happens there. Heat transfer always occurs from a higher temperature object to a cooler temperature object. One is described by the second law of thermodynamics. Getting beyond Joel's. I'm sorry. It's where the temperature differences between objects in proximity. Heat transfers between them, and it cannot be stopped. It can only be slowed down. So if you're out in the middle of nowhere, stay away from rocks and stuff like that. You don't want to lay on this. You don't want to lay directly on the ground.
This is like the saying, you don't heat your blanket don't heat you up, you heat your blanket up.
Absolutely, absolutely. Conduction. Heat transfers between neighboring molecules. Proper clothing should be your initial protection from the elements. It's important to add layers between the ground and your body. Pay attention to what your body is coming into contact with. Pine boughs, grass, bark, saplings, all can be used to build a platform up off the ground. How high do you need to be off the ground to protect yourself? 2 to 3 inches. 2 to 3 inches. As long as your body is not physically touching the ground, it's not going to suck the heat out of you. Convection. What's convection?
Airflow.
Airflow.
Like convection oven, right.
Right. Protect your body from heat loss from air current. If you're sitting down, even if you're raised up, and that air is smacking you in the back, that's convection. It's whisking that heat out of your body. All right, so you want to protect yourself from that. Use insulating clothing and shelter materials to trap the area and minimize heat loss. Radiation. Radiation.
That's heat from your body?
Heat from your body.
Right.
You hold your hand about an inch over the top of your other hand, and you feel the heat. Your body radiates that heat, but there's about a 1-inch layer between you and the air that there's actually heat. Beyond that, it changes. All right, that's radiation. All right, that's where your body radiates out. Night sky turns into a giant heat sink. Absorbs infrared radiation trying to escape from the Earth back to space causes cooling effects. Clouds. All right, clouds will trap that radiation of heat. All right, if it's a cloudy day, cloudy night's going to be warmer on a 40-degree day or a 40-degree night. If it's cloudy, it's going to seem warmer than it will at a 40-degree and it's sunny outside and the sun just went down, the skies are clear. There's going to be a difference in that stuff, and that's part of the radiation effect. And that's the reason why the desert, no clouds, it's cooler at night than it is here. So, evaporation. You must remember the heat loss through breathing and negative effects caused by moisture our body exhales. All right, so evaporation, we lose it every time we talk. You know, every time we go to the bathroom, we lose heat in a survival situation. All right. With this in mind, our goal is to use available materials to protect us from the wind, the rain, the radiative heat loss, such as vegetation, such as leaves, grass. Use those insulating materials. Grass can be thatched to build insulated walls. One of the things, we ain't got time to do it today, I can show you how to build like a wickiup, where you take tree limbs, and you bend them over, and you do that, you weave back like a wigwam and shit. So you keep doing that. But then you take your sticks on the outside and you weave them into your poles like this. So that ties that in. And then you come away from a water source, you find you a good source of clay. You take that clay and you smear it up on that thing. You let that thing sit for a while. Water's going to run off of it. It's going to lose a little bit, not much. Shit, you can take rocks and build your little fireplace in the backside of it. You're good to go. So you're living a life, man. When we got time, we will build shelters like that, just so everybody's got that experience of how to do it.
A lot of people mix that in with the grass or clay, and like a grass or hay, to keep it from cracking.
Yep, makes a good like fiber mesh and concrete stuff. So pay attention to your shelter, the location you put your shelter. Creeks can rise in the middle of the night. It'd be this at the damn river one night. We had the cops come out there and go, "Hey, y'all gotta go." The river's coming up. All right, so the altitude of the shelter can make a big difference in temperature. Do not take a chance by building your shelter close to water. Tides and rainstorms can cause water levels to rise unexpectedly, very rapidly. Be aware of the surroundings and look above your shelter location for limbs, what they call widow makers. All right, all this debris and stuff that's sit up there, and you go, "Well, I'll just tuck up underneath this rock." How sturdy is that rock? You know, it may look like it's been there for 20 years, and you think, "What's one more night?" You know, but this could be your chance. You know,
Mine was camping under one, lost 4 front teeth. Carl Basing, the great bait.
well,
Lost 4 front teeth because of it.
be leery of dead trees too, because you don't want to lay up underneath a tree that's got a bunch of dead limbs hanging over it, because then one of them limbs is
Kind of why they call them widowmakers.
Exactly.
You guys have experience with cutting down timber, knows exactly what that's about.
Right.
Do you know great bait? Carl Basing?
Choose the proper position for your shelter is also very important. If you're on a mountain, one side of the mountain might not get as much sunlight. Right? Some things to keep in mind are, make sure you ask yourself questions like, if a sudden rainstorm was to move in, would I be standing in water? Can rocks or debris fall and crush my shelter? If possible, position your shelter entrance to the opposite side of the prevailing wind. All right, you don't want to put, does everybody know geographics? Okay, you know where north, south, east, and west is. You know how to tell where true north is without a compass. Anybody? Watch.
There's a few things.
Stick.
Magnetized metal.
Watch and stick.
How moss grows.
We're in the northern hemisphere.
Shadow times.
Shadow times, right there.
That's east-west line.
It's
You
east
tell
west,
which way
but you
north
use a
is.
watch, you can find north south.
Right, in the southern hemisphere, right?
Northern.
Northern?
You do it in both of them.
Okay,
It works in both of them.
right on.
We'll touch that in another class, how to do topography and you know, latitude, longitude, and stuff like that. If you're facing north, where's the jet stream come from normally?
West?
Comes from the northwest. All right. So you don't want to point. You don't want to point your tent opening toward that jet stream. All right. Because that's where the wind's going to come from, especially if someone gets back up at us. You really don't want to do that. You want your shelter door to point south. All right? That is your best chance for protection against the wind and stuff. Even if that jet stream's coming up from the south, it's coming up from the southwest, it'll hit you sideways. So south is always the best way to put your door on your tent to keep the air from flooding in through tent. You're taking it down and freezing your ass off. So, windbreaks. What type of animals or insects are in the area? Why build the bed up off the ground? All right. Windbreaks, reflectors. Whether you call it a reflector, fire, a firewall, windbreak, or simply a reflector. Good practice to build a wall to protect your fire. Also, if you get out there and you make a fire, and you work for it 2 or 3 hours trying to get this fire going, you finally get this fire going, you don't want the wind whisking it out, burning your tinder up, burning your lumber up really quick because that wind's whipping right in there. So that's why they kind of make fire pits. You make them rock rings, you put a little rock rings up there. Dakota fire holes. Yeah. Awesome little dudes to use, man. Dig you a hole in the ground, and then dig you a little vertical trench with a hole in the top of it. Works great. Also, you can build your shelter and put a Dakota fire hole in your tent. If you got a big enough opening, build you a little fire in there. Put the vertical hole, put that back there toward the back where the wind is going, and it's going to suck that smoke and stuff out of there. You're going to lose some of the heat through, suction, but most of it's going to stay inside of your shelter and help keep you warm and stuff. So, let's see. Aperture of blocks, lean-tos, fallen trees, blah, blah, blah. All right. If possible, always use what is already there to save you time. If you hit the area there, you can see a tree falling over there. All right, you got resources right there. You got resources, over there. There's limbs and stuff already down. You don't want to look. Get close to where your resources are so you don't have to work as hard to extract your resources from different areas and stuff. So, use smaller tree with branches of 1 point to acre. We covered we talked about a little bit on the last meeting about, because everybody says, well, you just want to have tree limbs. You pull it up and you tie it to another tree over here. Okay, you can do that. And you cut that tree down and leave it stable and just cut it 3/4 of the way and break it down the rest of the way so it's still hooked to that thing. I'm going to show you how to do that with your tarp too. So, let's see. We're going to cover that. All right. Shelter materials. Use any available for shelter. Avoid poisonous plants. Everybody knows that. Does everybody know what poison ivy looks like? Pretty much.
Please, let it be.
Poison oak. 5 leaves.
Sumac red, right above.
Sumac got 7. So, yeah, know your poisonous stuff out there. I mean, you've got things that look edible that ain't. You've got things that don't look edible that are.
That will make your stay in the woods very uncomfortable.
Very, very, very.
Also, not all of the plants that you would grow, say tomatoes or other things, not all of the plant is edible or good for you to eat.
Right,
Just say, for instance, the green parts of the tomato plant cause respiratory and cardiac depression. So, at a large abundance, you can't eat it as a green.
Right. It is. That's going on the website there, buddy.
Take it.
All right. Otherwise, use natural usually provide. Come on now. Let's see here. Say you're stranded in the woods, or did you survive a plane crash? You're going to have little things that you can use from the different types of. Other than that, you're looking at vegetation, trees, tree limbs, moss, grass, everything you can use from the. So, anytime you're building a shelter, it's a good idea to wear gloves and tear your hands up, because when you're out there ain't nobody around, ain't nothing there to help you, ain't no doctors. A small cut can end you. I mean, you're going to get an infection in there, gangrene, lockjaw, death, If you get nasty,
You've never suffered from blood poisoning, you've never suffered. It's
Yeah.
pretty nasty shit.
it's harsh.
Yes, it is. I pricked my finger with a fillet knife one time and it got infected. The very next day, I waited till about 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I'd done this at 10 o'clock at night. 10:30. Well, by 3 o'clock in the afternoon, my finger had swelled up that big around. And by the time I got to the hospital, I waited